It was day 3 of my 10-day silent meditation retreat when the song came through and completely took over my life. We rise, we rise, we rise, ringing over and over in my head. Now, as a songwriter, my normal process is I'll take my guitar or my piano, I'll play some really nice chords, put them together, make a melody, and add some lyrics to it. But not this song. This song was different. It actually came to me as if it had already been written. The song, the music, the choir, the harmonies, the orchestra, all in my head playing, as if somebody had already written it, and I was the lucky one who actually got to hear it for the first time. Now, it was just months after the tragedy of September 11th, and I actually was still reconciling with the fact that I was actually supposed to be in the World Trade Center when the planes hit. So part of my healing process was to try and figure out what happened for myself and what I could do to start my own personal healing. One of the things that I did was that I witnessed this global tragedy and saw amazing people in New York come together and the best sides of themselves connect and try and help those who were in pain. After that, I traveled to India, where His Holiness the Dalai Lama had been leading a world peace prayer where 500,000 people came together to this tiny little village in India to pray for world peace. Now you can imagine the palpable energy and hope and inspiration when you have that many people come together in one place with one sole intention. So take the tragedy of September 11th and the amazing people in New York coming together. Take that, add 500,000 people in India praying for something bigger than they were. And then add the gift of this amazing song, We Rise, where one of the main concepts was the notion that it takes a single drop of water to start a wave, that all of us are all single drops, that we all have the power that when united can make change. So what did I do? I recorded the song, and this was actually the impetus for me to start thinking about building a 1,000,000-voice choir to sing We Rise from all over the planet. So I recorded the song, we built a website, and we made sure everybody had access to it. They could download it for free from anywhere in the world. There were guidelines on how to create your own event to be part of this global movement. There was a karaoke version so people could actually sing it with their communities. And then I sent out an email. I was actually a professional jazz singer at night, and I was a preschool teacher in the daytime, which is why I was supposed to be in the World Trade Center. And I had a small following of people who had been coming to my shows in New York, LA, and San Francisco. And I sent them an invitation. And I told them that I had this epiphany. And I wrote this song, We Rise, and that I wanted to build a 1,000,000-voice choir around the world to sing it. And if this resonated with them at all, to please forward it to their friends. The first week, we had over 14,000 hits on the website, which at that time in 2002 was significant because we didn't have Facebook yet. Twitter wasn't even a tweet. And even email was not mainstream yet. So to me, this was a message from me saying that there are people out there who want to be part of this, who want to be part of something bigger than they are. So I left my life, quit my preschool job, left my career as a jazz singer, gave away all my belongings, took what little money I had, my backpack and my guitar, and started to travel around the world inviting people to be part of this global movement. And I had a plan. I had a strategy. I had an agenda. I was going to talk to these people over here, and they were going to promote it over there. I was going to go to this gathering over here so it could get the biggest reach. I had so many plans. And many of those plans came to fruition, but most of them did not. And the reason I think that is because I was forcing my own agenda to this movement when it actually had its agenda of its own. I actually started to get really frustrated and started to have the realization that, I was delusional. What am I thinking, building a million voice choir? That's silly. Go home, get a job. And so when I was at my absolute lowest and I was ready to pack up and go home, I found myself in a little town in Idaho. And some people invited me to come and sing for them. And I didn't tell them about the choir because I had already tossed the idea. I was ready to go. And so I sang We Rise for them in all its purity, with no agenda, no strategy, no plans. And after I sang it, there was not a dry eye in the house. And people were asking, unprovoked, uninfluenced, what are you going to do with that song? It's bigger than you are. It's epic. You have to do something with it. And a few days later, I get a call from a friend of mine. Mind you, I'm ready to leave. She's in New York, and she says, Gemma, I'm at the United Nations. They just called your song the new human world anthem. Listen. And you could hear the song playing in the background. And it was at that moment that I realized this song had a life of its own. My agenda was nothing compared to what this song had in mind for its own mission. And so I realized that I was not the owner of the song. I never was. And so I started to fancy myself Frodo. And the song was The Ring. And my only job was to protect it and to steward it and to guide it so it actually could reach its own mission. And it was then that I actually transitioned from hope into faith. Because hope has that element of doubt. I hope it happens, but you always get that but. But faith, and I don't mean the religious faith, I mean faith at its purest, is unwavering. And I started to see the world in a totally different way, where people who I was meeting and things that I was doing and places I was going all of a sudden became people I was supposed to meet who were going to be part of the fellowship. And things that I was doing that was an experience that I needed to have in order to learn what I needed to learn in order to really steward and protect this mission. And everywhere I went, I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And that opened up so many possibilities because everywhere I went, I believed I was exactly where I was supposed to be. And so I then met my Gandalf. Satish Kumar was hosting an event called Water for Life. It was an event that was gathering all of these experts from around the world to actually talk about the world water crisis. I had no idea that 1.2 billion people in the world had no access to clean water or sanitation. It was unfathomable to me. But I got invited because of that notion that it takes a single drop of water to start a wave. People started to think of me as the water lady, the lady singing for water. And Satish sat me down and he told me his story. And he said when he was a Jain monk in the 1960s, he had this idea that he was going to walk around the world to all the cities that had nuclear arms, and he was going to go there in silent and nonviolent protest, talk to the people who were in charge of pressing the button, and ask them, before they press the button, to have a cup of tea. That was his mission. And in his tradition, before anyone does anything of that magnitude, they should go to their guru and ask for guidance or permission. And so he did. And his guru, his teacher, said, of course, you must do this. But you must do this with no money. Because you have to believe that every person you meet is kind and generous, and everything and everywhere you go, you will be taken care of. And he said to me, "That's what you're supposed to do." And so I did. All of a sudden, magic started to happen. People were handing me airline tickets, bus tickets, train tickets, driving me from one place to the next, making sure I was safe. Strangers were handing me thousands of dollars before I got on planes to make sure that I got to my next destination. I'd be walking in strange cities, in foreign countries, and random people would come up to me and say, "You're that woman singing for water. You're the one building the Million Voice Choir. Come with us. We'll take care of you." That was happening everywhere. Even Jane Goodall, I saw that she was doing a talk. I gathered enough courage to go up and introduce myself, and she said, "Gemma, I've heard all about you." Weeks later, I'm sitting on a stump in front of Pete Seeger's house, and he's just made us a bowl of homemade soup and bread, and he's telling me that he sings "We Rise" on his morning walk up the mountain. And he shares stories of his days of when he was a peace troubadour, as if I was one of his peers. And then being invited to meet the 27,000 students in India at this one school who sings "We Rise" before they start class every morning. This was the kind of magic that was happening, and this was not happening because of me. "We Rise" had its own life and was touching the people that it needed to touch, and it was spreading in the way it needed to spread. So by September 21st, 2004, which was the day we asked people to sing from all over the planet, we had been able to mobilize over 100 cities in 60 countries singing "We Rise" from all over the globe. And so if you look at it, the song was the drop, right? And the choir, you would think, would have been the wave, but it actually was just the ripple. Because as I was traveling around the world, actually seeing firsthand this global crisis, learning about it at these conferences, I realized that my mission was not just to build this choir, it was the catalyst to make me realize what my actual purpose was. And that was to start thinking about doing water projects. So I won an award from Queen Latifah and CoverGirl, $10,000. I took the money, learned how to build some really simple technologies, went to the Philippines, won a ton of awards for the water programs that we've done, and to date, we've been able to provide over 200,000 people with clean water and sanitation in Asia and Africa. And it all started with one song. I'm just a little drop of water in a sea of peaceful souls, and I am humbled and amazed. We